Let's get going. Boom. All right, we talked a lot about balloting from the process point of view. Now we're going to talk about it from the community point of view. One of the best ways to get feedback outside the Connect-a-thon, wait, my sound man is coming. Are we good? Do I need to do something? Somebody bumped the projector. Is to work with the community through ballots. So once you've got your Connect-a-thon achieved and you've got some feedback and you've got a chance to work on that and refine further, it's time to look at the community and say, hey, I've got a baby. Please have a look and tell me what you think. So you submit a notice of intent to ballot, the NIB, and go through the publication readiness check to say, hey, we've got it all right. We've got all the paperwork done. We've got all the little fiddly bits and fjords all figured out. And everything is QAing perfectly, and there's love in the air, and people are feeling good about themselves. And then you go out and do something dumb like saying, what do you think? And then you invite as many people as possible to look at what you've spent hours and days and months on, and every one of them will come back and call your baby ugly. And that's a good thing, because every one of them has looked at your use case and go, hey, this doesn't fit my use case this way. Or, by the way, there's a typo on page 6 that you need to fix because that changes the definition of that sentence quite dramatically, and I'm sure you didn't mean to say that. This is very important because it's a much broader look at what you've done. It's a way of saying, hey, this use case covers this aspect, and I don't think you've seen that. It may be as simple as, why are you doing this in the first place? And I have received comments saying just that. Why bother? Because I have a use case and I have people asking for this. That's why. And sometimes that's a good enough response.
And this is a super good reason to go to the community beforehand, especially the work groups, and ask their opinions on things, because then you don't get so many negative comments.
Yeah, the whole point, work group, Connect-a-thon, all of this should probably minimize your negative comments. Well, there's 3 types, right? So there's the typo, hi, on page 6, you've spent the TE, you may want to fix that. Those you just kind of automatically accept and do. Affirmative votes are, hey, great idea, have you considered? Or, I don't quite understand this. Or, hey, maybe you want to think about this aspect and changing this. These don't require action because they've said, no, it's fine, but however, they're a great way of looking for things for future use. They're a great way of saying, you know what, they're right, we should cover this now. And then there's negative. I'm sorry, your baby is ugly. You will fix this, or I will not allow you to publish. And a negative comment must be actioned. A negative comment must make for a change, especially if you're going normative. If you're just putting it out just for general comments, you can consider it and say, thank you very much. You do not, but it's just a comment ballots are non-binding. STU ballots are, normative ballots are, but comment ballots are, all right, we thought about it, thanks for it. No, we're not going to get my baby a nose job. And then Lloyd has something.
I'm just going to clarify the wording a little bit there. So for both affirmative and negative, you need to look at the comment and make a decision about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
The difference is if you make a decision about a negative comment that is not doing what the balloter would like you to do, they might choose to let their negative stand. And at normative, if enough people let their negative stand, then you can't actually publish. If a couple of people are just annoying and want something totally different than what the rest of the community wants, and they refuse to withdraw their negative, you can go back to the community at large and say, yeah, we understand why this particular person doesn't like it, we don't care, we want to publish anyhow, and that's fine. But you have, regardless of affirmative or negative, you have to look at it and decide what, if anything, you're going to do, and then negative voters have an opportunity to say, yeah, we understand the decision, and we're either good with that or not good with that, and publication decision comes after that.
Okay.
And negative comments are a place that I personally, and probably most other people who work on ballots, tend to work with the person who made the comment. So if you work with the person who made the comment, even if you're going to say not persuasive, and you email the person and say this is why and this is what we're doing or we're hoping to do. Do you agree with this? And get their buy-in. It's super helpful.
And that's why one of the biggest things when you're doing comment resolution, the WGM is a great place to do that. Second is a working group meeting because they're somewhat moderated or facilitated, at least they should be. Third, a phone call. Last, an email. Fourth, follow-up comments on the ballot. Again, because a negative, in most cases, a negative comment has to be withdrawn by the negative commenter. It's very important to work directly with them. One-on-one if you can, or in a bunch if you think it's not persuasive and you need other people in the community to back you up. But work with them as people. Some of the times you're going to get comments that are completely pissing you off because what they want is against your use case, but they have an axe to grind, and congratulations, you just became the wheel. But if you work with them, if you talk with them, if you are patient, and understanding, and open, you can actually get them on your side. If you can't, work with somebody who's able to do that, somebody who knows them or somebody in the community who can help you get to that point. There will be times when they're intractable. They will not change their vote. It is not what the community wants, and you're stuck with them, as Lloyd said. And Lloyd says?
Lloyd's going to say something different. So you can have this issue where people comment and then you have to work with them to figure out what the resolution is. You can also have an issue where nobody comments, or people comment and say, yeah, that's awesome, and don't actually read. So it is your responsibility as an IG author to beat the bushes and really encourage your community to, okay, we've done this work. Now that it's packaged together, you need to yourself and all of the stakeholders that are in your organization actually go through, read, and comment and provide feedback. Because often people don't. And if they don't, there's two effects. One is you don't get the benefit of the feedback, and you could publish something that turns out to be broken 3 years later when it's too late. But from a maturity perspective, we actually look to make sure that you are getting comments in ballot and that you're making substantive changes as a result of those. And so if everybody just doesn't pay any attention to you, your ballot to a certain extent doesn't count from moving up the maturity scale.
That's actually a very good point, and that's something that we always do if we have new clients, new IGs, is we actually take the client and the community through how to ballot or how to vote, how to read the IG, number one, which I should be able to do because hopefully you've been going through it with them. But oftentimes they'll bring in other people who are going to be voting, so we may have an hour where we go through how to read the IG and then how to ballot and what the different types of votes are and type of comments you can make. Using the spreadsheet or GForge. It depends. It totally depends on the client and what they want to do. So most of them like to use the spreadsheet because lots of times they don't have HL7. They don't want to have anything to do. They just want to send all the comments to one person, and that person puts it in a spreadsheet and sends it through.
It's my understanding, though, that if it's put in as GForge, it doesn't have to be addressed along the ballot. If you want it to be addressed against the ballot, you have to put it in the spreadsheet.
So right now, anything that is submitted as a ballot comment needs to be referenced in a spreadsheet for it to be considered part of the ballot. Anybody can submit GForge items at any time, and we encourage you to submit your ballot comments in GForge too. But when you submit your ballot comments in GForge, you need to reference them in a spreadsheet. That part of the process will go away soon for a given definition of soon.
In geologic time.
Yeah, exactly.
When's that magical soon date on the calendar? I need to find it.
He says soon this time, he doesn't mean momentarily when he gets,
Yeah, it's
not soon like the publisher.
If it's still happening after 2020, I'm going to be really, 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 really upset. But it's probably not going to happen in 2019.
Okay. Now, once you've received the comments through the comment ballot system, they do need to be input into GForge or someday JIRA. That's also soon in geologic time. There are steps on have they been put into Confluence, or are they still on the wiki for the GForge import? Converting the spreadsheet to GForge tickets?
The importing process is how to clean up your ballot spreadsheet. Those are in Confluence.
Those are in Confluence.
The
okay.
actual process to do it is there's one person in the world who knows how.
That's Lloyd.
No.
No?
That's Josh.
Oh, Josh. Okay.
And he's getting increasingly annoyed about doing it. So hopefully this will be the last time.
Okay. Okay. Once you've done that, once you've got them all cleaned up and pretty, it's important to get together with your whole project team, right? I mean, it's possible for you to sit down and go, yeah, okay, I can fix that. If it's a typo, well, you fix that. But informative and negative comments really should be a project team thing. It's understandable your project team may not have time, right? Or the sponsors doesn't have time, or Lloyd says
technically it's not the project. So once you have balloted, the work group that is responsible for that artifact
yeah. Well,
is responsible for voting on the dispositions.
Yes.
Yeah, but I agree with David.
I'm
You
talking
should be
about creating
yeah.
the dispositions,
Yeah.
and then, of course, you do have to take them back to the work group because only a work group can vote on things. And doing them in person here well, not here, but soon to be here at the WGM makes that either easier or more difficult, depending on your work group. Suggested dispositions are still suggestions. You don't get to say, no, we will only do it this way. These are negotiations like everything else you're going to do. Just because you've decided this is the right way to do it doesn't mean it is. Just because the commenter has given you a suggested disposition doesn't mean that's the right way to do it either. You will sit down and you should talk with the commenter, talk with the project team, talk with your sponsor if it's possible to work out how to solve a problem. All right. Not persuasive should only be used when the comment really isn't possible or really is against the use case or the commenter disappeared into the ether and you don't care. Otherwise, find a negotiated solution. Work with the teams, work with the commenter, work with everyone, right? Get your community involved. This impacts them just as much as you. You have to write the code. They have to use it for the next few years. Get to yes if you can. Like I said, sometimes getting to no is where you have to sit. A lot of times considered for future use is a wonderful solution, right? We can't do that right now, but you're right, that needs to be done. How about we do that for version 1.1 or version 2 or version 17? Yes, ma'am.
My concern with,
Oh, we don't have, there, we do.
my concern with that is, as I've been reviewing CDA stuff, we end up with so many things out there called
Yep.
consider for future use that no one ever thinks about. And at what point do you get the opportunity to go back and then get rid of those?
So with FHIR in GForge, anything that is marked as considered for future use automatically comes back every time you publish. So every time you publish, we take all of the things that are marked as applied and mark them as published. And then immediately after that, we take everything that was marked as deferred and move them back to active. And they show up on your this is list of things that you must resolve in GForge as part of your duties as a work group. So it comes back time and time again. And we have had in several work groups things that got deferred for one ballot and then got deferred for the next ballot. We can actually monitor how many times that has happened. And if you keep doing that, the FMG will come and chat with you and say, so make up your mind, are you going to do this or not? And it's okay to decide, you know what? We haven't found a use for it in the last 3 ballot cycles, and we don't have anybody who has energy to do it, so we're just going to finally say no. But there is an expectation that the decision will get revisited, and then the process actually makes that happen. Yeah, it's the same with IGs as everything else. Yeah, so we have not been that great about enforcing the process on IGs, but it's there and it works. We just need to make sure that that's part of the publication process. Okay, well,
Well,
you can add it to your list, Graham.
congratulations, Graham. You just added to your workload. Thanks for coming out.
Add a step in the checklist. So I think we have to separate the difference between what's happening during a ballot and ballot reconciliation from this STU comment process that Linda's talking about. So in consolidated CDA, there's the in-between time.
Yes.
And that's when the STU comments are piling up, and you do get that situation where there's things that get deferred, and should someone have the nerve to take something for a next version
Right.
to ballot, the first place to start is the list of outstanding suggestions and ideas that are in your sustained comment list. But then you have a different issue. Then once you ballot, you have specific ballot comments that need to be disposed of, and that's like a different scenario. That's just to get to your next level of something that's published. But then once it's published, the sustainability is the where you tend to lose responsibility over whose job it is to be watching over that queue of questions in the in-between times.
Yeah, absolutely. Comments can come in at any time. Well, before you publish, after you publish, during ballots, Tuesday at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're not expecting them because only Graham's awake. Those may not be anybody's responsibility, right? Your author's job ended when. Same to you.
Yeah, the work group has responsibility for their specification until such time as they choose to retire it. So 10 years after it was first published, if it's still an active specification and a comment comes in, the work group is expected to monitor that and resolve it and do so in a timely fashion.
Right.
We haven't had great tools to lean on work groups who are being too slow, but when we have JIRA in place, we will have better tools to lean on work groups that are being too slow. And there will be an expectation that, this comment's been sitting there with nobody answering and saying anything about it for a year. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Fix it. And that'll be part of work group health.
All right. But even if the work group does sit down and dispense the comment, somebody has to actually do something with it. So somebody has to either modify the code and put in a pull request into GitHub if you're using pull requests, blah, blah, blah. So that's something to consider because, like I said, your guy's job may be done because, okay, it's published. Thanks. It doesn't work. They're still a client.
So is the STU process, is the STU update process the same for FHIR? Like how would an update for a FHIR IG work?
So STU updates are publication requests. They can be preceded by a ballot or not. The TSC has some guidelines in terms of when do you need to ballot versus not. And feedback comes in on content all of the time, whether it's part of a ballot or not. The stuff that is part of a ballot influences whether you're allowed to publish or not. Content that doesn't come in as part of a ballot, work groups are expected to read and respond to, but cannot say, no, you can't publish. That's the only difference between content coming in as a ballot comment versus content just coming in from anybody at any arbitrary time.
Right, but you can do an unballoted STU update, but you still have to go through the same process where either put something up on the
Still a
wiki
publication request.
Right, and you still have to go through the same process with getting work group approval, though, right?
You need
and
to,
voting and.
You need the work group to approve the publication. You need the work group to approve whatever changes are being made as part of that
Right.
publication. You need the TSE to approve the publication and the FMG to approve the publication.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, process isn't different, just no ballots.
So for our example with ELTSS, we just got approval for publication. And we are in that final step. I'm hoping that it will be published before the Connect-a-thon.
Hopefully.
After the Connect-a-thon, we're going to have some comments. So our process is to put those comments into GForge.
Mhm.
against E ELTSS specification, but it won't be associated with the ballot.
Correct.
And then, once we resolve those trackers, get work group approval,
Then-
then we can submit for an STU update publication.
Right, you go through
Okay.
the whole publishing process again, minus the ballot.
It's almost exactly the same. The only difference is you don't have to put it into ballot.
Okay, so publication request, publication readiness form.
Nibs, all of that.
Oh, nibs too? No nib.
No nib?
'Cause we're
Oh,
not
yeah, sorry,
balloting.
yeah, sorry, brain.
Right.
There's more. You also have to, well, as far as I'm aware, for an CDA.
Give her the microphone.
Oh, sorry. You would have to, so you go through all the STU comments first, or the tracker comments, and you get, those are voted. You make the changes, and then you put it in to the work group for them to comment on, just like on a ballot. Right, comment on the changes, and you set up a wiki page, and they can make comments on there. Yeah, so it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, and then yeah. So it's almost the exact same process. The only difference is really that there's no nib and you don't have to go to ballot.
Okay, so there's sample STU update wiki pages that we can model off of?
There is one for CDA, I think. Do you know where that is?
Yeah, structured documents wiki has done some that way. You'd want to do it on Confluence now. What's the question?
The process for an STU update.
Posting a page where you could do the STU update. I think it's just managed on work groups.
Yeah.
The work groups.
I think it's
Yeah.
just managed on work groups.
Yeah.
So I know there was one, US Meds did recently when an Austrian.
Lloyd, can you give her the mic?
CPI, we created a page on.
Give it a grab.
Yeah. Where people can put their comments and you like make a table and just basically like a ballot comment worksheet or a spreadsheet, but not. Though I guess you could use a tracker for FHIR. Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
or just work with the director directly.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe like they have for the ballot, there's like a drop down where you pick the ballot. You could do this, ask Lloyd or someone to set up. Yeah, yeah.
Just speaking as product manager for FHIR, I look at all STU updates that didn't go through ballot and check that they're not basically sidestepping ballot. And I don't want to see, like I would not want to see scope changes or new functionality or stuff like that. I want to see that it really is basically some kind of, agreed technical correction that's not quite just a technical correction, right? So I do look at that. And if I feel that it's outside of a proper scope, I'm going to talk to the TSC about that.
Okay.
Isn't US Core getting ready to do an STU update?
Yep.
Anybody wants to watch this process, it's about to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very-
indeed.
A very important one is about to happen, and people should be watching.
Yeah, US Core is going through a STU update. It's, you can actually,
Currently.
if you go to US Core on the build site, you can see all the changes.
Started?
It's currently open for comment right now on the informal comment period.
Okay. So yeah, and that's the thing. Remember, some of your comments could be big enough to break your whole model. So be ready that you may not have thought of something, and that something changes a resource use, changes the logical model you're using, changes the entire use case because somebody said, hey, what about? So be ready. Anyway, okay, and that ends this.